Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, Laura Loomer, Looney Loomer, is at it again with her tirades against Muslims. Anyone who would talk about this concerning the Jays most likely would be deplatformed and debanked. But it's almost like, well, it actually is, a two-tier justice system. Rules for thee, not for me type of mentalities going on. And we see here her tirade going on and on and on. But I want to archive it, I want to cover it, so that way in the future no one can change what has happened. She won't be able to delete it away. And it's important for us as believers to understand who she is and how close she is to Trump, the Trump administration, and in MAGA. Because birds of a feather flock together. Who Trump appoints, who Trump allows around him reflects his moral character. So let us examine her character. Right? Now, she writes for us here, quote, "It should be illegal for Muslims to hold office in America. How come ICE hasn't restrained Ilhan by her hijab and thrown her into a van and prepared her for deportation for immigration fraud? Why do we allow Muslim invaders to influence our political system? It's suicide, end quote." Now, I want you to look at some aspects here. The word invader, van, by the hijab, and then having a religious test for political office. Now, America is secular, and it is overwhelmingly liberal. The Bible is not used in public schools, okay? The Bible is not used in the executive, judiciary, or legislative branch, and America's not a Christian theocracy, all right? And we have freedom of religion. So the First Amendment is quite specific, and America doesn't have a religious test for office. That wouldn't work well in the Christians' favor, I'd argue. Now, she writes something really aggressive here. Restraining by the hijab. So, she doesn't say, grab her by the arm, the wrist, but the hijab. This attack on the religious garment. Would Loomer say, arrest that nun by her veil? Grab that J by his beard? Grab that Christian by that golden cross around their neck? Something very peculiar, huh? She chose the hijab because she hates Muslims and she wants the symbol of Islam to be attacked. A woman in a hijab is like attacking Islam itself. What do I mean by that? It's symbolic. So, if you were to grab a Sikh person by the turban on their head, a Buddhist by their garments, a Christian by a gold cross around their neck, kind of like how Trax NYC, when he got into a brawl, his opponent grabbed him, and his gold chain was very well constructed and therefore strong, and they choked him with his own gold chain, and then it was very red around his neck. Think of Tyrion Lannister, how he used his gold chain around his ex's throat. So there's this restrainment, okay? Grabbing someone by a item that represents their identity is symbolic, right? When you break it down. So she chooses the hijab very specifically. And then thrown into a van. Remember, ICE is snatching people up left and right. We hopefully will have Nuremberg-style trials for the MAGA cult. And hopefully there is other people in other countries archiving the crimes of the MAGA regime in America. America can censor fellow Americans, but hopefully people are documenting from their perspective, outside looking in, of what's happening. And when you think about how brutal ICE has been, these words are not light from Laura. For example, this was a video that I hearted it because I want to see more of this content so I can save it. If you don't interact with the post, it won't show up in your feed. There's a mother and father and a baby, and ICE is literally snatching them from the van. The baby is screaming. Okay? We have seen horrors beyond our imagination being committed, and this is what Trump has brought. Unfortunately, Trump is everything that the left warned us about, and I feel guilty because I mocked the left for their rhetoric. I thought they were being hyperbolic. I just really was wrong, and it takes a lot to admit you're wrong. So, when Laura Loomer is using throw them in a van, this aggressive behavior, she wants Muslims and Ilhan Omar to be treated like how the Latinos are being treated right now by the Gestapo of the Trump regime. So, I want you to understand, Loomer has layers of rhetoric, and she has layers of symbolic meanings in her words. Also, this guy, he was someone who was R-wording a Nicaraguan woman, okay? And when you, as a woman, are snatched up, that's very scary. We have to remember, a lot of immigrant women are in severe danger from the ICE Gestapo. They are snatching up women, and remember, there's been people caught impersonating ICE agents. Okay? Nefarious organizations are impersonating ICE agents, and then, who knows, these people are being disappeared. There's even been Native American Indians who have been snatched up, and then tribal elders can't find their people. Okay? These threats that Laura Loomer is making are not idle. Remember, Laura Loomer hates Muslims at all costs. She despises Islam. Okay? When Looney Loomer, Jigsaw, is threatening a Muslim woman in this way, talking about being thrown into a van, she's dog whistling to the ICE agents. Okay? She wants all of us women to be treated that way. Now, even if you're not a feminist, you are a feminist, look at it from this way. A fellow woman is advocating for Ilhan Omar to be snatched up by masked men and put into the back of a van. Many of these individuals are being discovered to be severe criminals and deviants. So, by extension, following the train of logic, Loomer wants Ilhan Omar, a non-violent woman, to be in the hands of men who have a high rate of R-wording their victims, who are in their custody. Laura Loomer is wishing R-wording upon Ilhan Omar through her veiled rhetoric. Remember, the Is Not Reallys, that viral video where the soldiers, the IDF soldiers, were R-wording a Palestinian male inmate. Okay? And then the people rioted that they had a right to do that for their warfare tactics. If you recall that tragic, heartbreaking video, Laura Loomer, she loves that method. She's not shy. She's trying not to be too on the nose for us here. But when you break down the back story of the rhetoric that she's building upon, you understand the ripples. I want you to compare the behavior and conduct of Ilhan Omar versus Looney Loomer. Ilhan is not vulgar. From an Islamic perspective, she needs to do better. She fights against Sharia law. She's pro-rainbow stuff, which contradicts what the Prophet, peace be on him, said, because the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with him, cursed men who dress like women and women who dress like men, imitate women, right? So we know we can't be doing all that. So from an Islamic perspective, we can critique Ilhan. But she, Loomer, is doing it from a Zio perspective. Okay? And we need to examine who behaves in a more professional, dignified way. Is Ilhan Omar. She has her problems, but her rhetoric, her behavior, her mannerisms are not as unhinged as Loomer's. Okay? Ilhan Omar does not have the same, like if you were to take Laura's rhetoric, replace Muslims with Jays, clearly Ilhan, if these two had the exact same rhetoric but you just switched out the words, the media would target Ilhan more than Loomer, okay? Now, I want you to understand that ICE has been, if you go on my community tab right now, I shared with you that ICE is actually paying social media influencers to push pro-ICE propaganda. Part of their script is to call Muslims invaders and Latinos invaders, Somalians invaders. Everyone is an invader, because they want their recruits to have this militaristic mindset, this crusader mindset. And I've done videos. If you check out my playlist of Laura Loomer, I'm documenting her rhetoric. She calls Muslims invaders, and she calls for a crusade. Okay? A religious crusade. And a crusade denotes military actions. Laura uses militaristic, antagonistic language intentionally, with purpose. It's not an accident. Okay? And she persistently and consistently uses fiery rhetoric, bombastic slogans, and this sort of domineering mindset towards all Muslims. Okay? And remember, she's not allowed to own a firearm because she was twice committed against her will by her father in a mental facility. Okay? She's not well. And someone who undergoes vast amounts of plastic surgery because they hate the reflection in the mirror also has an identity crisis and is unwell. Okay, whenever a woman dyes her hair black, starts getting Cruella de Vil eyebrows, we know that she's not doing so well. So, we see here that Laura doesn't actually care about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, anything like that. Now, I mention that because a lot of these right-wingers, they will pretend that they love the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Founding Fathers. Remember, Laura wants Trump to be king, and I did a video showing how the Founding Fathers, they did not want a monarchical system for America. Time and time again, she speaks out of both sides of her mouth. She wants to be seen as this patriotic constitutionalist who's hearkening back to 17th century values, but at the same time, she's advocating for a new system because she's the top cult member of MAGA. And she's the highest sycophantic bootlegger of Trump. Okay? And Trump is her lifeline. Without Trump, she loses a lot. And it's important to understand her goals are different than a lot of common people's goals in America. She wants the utter destruction of Islam. She mocks the Palestinian suffering, celebrates the harmed children. She got mad and said, "Why should I feel bad for Palestinian children or the children of Gaza?" It's important to understand who she is. This is a woman who can't feel sorry for maimed children and is advocating now for Ilhan Omar to be basically snatched up, grabbed by her religious garment, and captured by masked men who many of them are criminals, okay? And they have very poor records. It's truly quite sad that she spouts such things without any caution. So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make Ilhan Omar more religious, according to the Quran and Sunnah. And I think this is a good lesson for a lot of women that if you get into politics, it's a very dirty game. And I feel bad that our fellow believer is being trashed to such an extent on the public stage where someone close to the Trump regime is advocating for such serious harm against her. And, man, really, our brothers, we have to stand behind our Muslim men and then let the men lead. It's a nasty business. I wouldn't want to be in that position, I'll tell you what. But Ilhan Omar, she thinks she's doing good, but she should be careful. And also, the Somalians are heavily under fire. And she's a Somalian, she's black, and she's a Muslim. And those three categories are consistently maligned by the Megatardians. So she's got a lot of things going after her right now. So I hope she turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, makes dua, does her daily prayers, and seeks Allah's protection. And we have to be careful of people like Lower Loomer who wish harm upon us. So let's all keep doing good deeds, keep giving charity, keep studying, keep spreading the word of Islam, and making dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive and guide our fellow believers. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and join the blog.